You're listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in the esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is Sunday, March 25th, and we are covering the last week of Stage 2 in the Overwatch League. Jax, before we begin today, let's just mention we had a bit of a change of plans this week. We are actually doing two podcasts this week because there was a lot going on. We probably will do this in the future as well for the stage ending weeks because
if they keep the schedule like this, then we'll probably do it like this.
Yeah, because there's a lot going on. Even if we end up with two shorter episodes, Jack's like we'll see about that.
Lepos has already been given guidelines as to the proper length of this episode. We'll see if he follows them. Our normal clock man is not here tonight, so
it's all up to me tonight, Jax.
In chat, so it'll be rough.
But personal responsibility, something that's going on, I guess, in the Overwatch League this week, Jax. There's a couple of things that we need to talk about with personal responsibility. Dallas Fuel having some of that go around, some of that bug of passing who has personal responsibility, but not just there. Can we also talk about LA Valiant and their reality TV series and personal responsibility that they're tossing around?
We talk about wanting transparency with the Dallas Fuel. Then you look at the Valiant; they're giving us plenty of transparency levels. I mean, it had me wanting to go down to In-N-Out myself to get a burger and fries and a shake.
I mean, Jax, if we need to talk about your performance and whether you're making the cut, you're okay. We don't need to go to the In-N-Out Burger for that. You're going to be here for a while. That was something, though, Jax. That was, and now I don't want to talk about drama in too much, but this is sort of a tale of two different management styles, and both are not looking good between the Fuel and the Valiant. Like, really, do you want to work for either of those two teams right now? Like, I would not want to be a player on either of those two teams. With
Dallas, no. The Valiant, maybe. No, not really. I wouldn't want to play for the Valiant. Well, now maybe, because now at least you can be a part of the Valiant and still be doing something. Under the previous coach, those who weren't in the starting six, they did nothing. They had no scrim time. They had no strategy sessions, nothing. Now, with this current coach, perhaps you will get something out of being an Overwatch League player besides the paycheck. But do I want to play for the Valiant? Honestly, no, not really.
Yeah, and it's important this week that we talk about it because Valiant did play an important role with how everything shook out in terms of the playoff standings. Other point to note as well, we mentioned that we're doing things in two episodes this week. We are covering in this podcast, Jax, the Overwatch League, the regular week.
Stage 2, week 5.
Not the playoffs, though. The playoffs we're doing in a special episode. We are doing that one tomorrow, I believe, Jax, after we have a bit
probably either tomorrow or Tuesday, most likely tomorrow.
Yes, that's right. So we'll be doing that most likely tomorrow, probably here live at 9 PST on Monday, March 26th. But that episode will be coming out this week as well. So double episode this week for that. But we'll also be covering
same length of time, right? Instead of one giant one, we'll have two smaller ones. Because the playoffs were today. You and I, we watched it live, but we didn't have time to go back and take proper full notes and go through. It was a lot. It was a lot that happened. No spoilers, but just to say there was a lot that happened today
in the playoffs alone.
In the playoffs,
yeah. So that's something to look forward to. But Jax, the regular week had a lot going on as
First
well.
First game of the week that I'm already looking at. It was one of the huge playoff implications here.
Yeah, huge one. It was Gladiator versus Fusion right off the start on Wednesday afternoon for us on the West Coast. It was pretty insane to get the week started this way, and it was a pretty interesting matchup overall too. This one was the Gladiators on the away team, so they had to attack first into Fusion.
Coming into this, the Gladiators were in third. Seoul was fourth, and the Fusion were fifth, if I'm remembering things correctly. I think I believe that is correct. The Gladiators were the team. So New York and London pretty much had 1 and 2 locked up. In fact, I think they did have 1 and 2 locked up. So the third place spot for the playoffs was only one There's someone that people could fight over. The Gladiators had the inside track where if they win their games, like I think there was a chance via map score that they might not have made it, but if they won their 2 games that they played this week, they were pretty much in. So for the Gladiators, it's what you want as a competitor. You want your fate to be in your own hands.
And Jax, though, it didn't really do very well in their hands. Let's be honest. Hanamura not starting off well for them. Fusion holding them on B point there, and then able to make their distance with fairly easy buildup of ultimates to break through the Gladiators' defense. Managed to take Hanamura 2-1. Gladiators, though, strike back. Nepal was there around 2-0 there. Ikeo not really finding too much, unfortunately, for Fusion on that one. Hollywood, though, and Route 66 both go Fusion's way. And, well, I'm just going to skip ahead to Route 66, Jax, because Widow's Out did not favor Gladiators whatsoever here, as they get full held on the A point of Route 66. So 1-0 here, Jax. 1-0. And it's something you've brought up, which is Surefour's Widowmaker play. Not necessarily comparable
not
to
just here.
Carpe's.
If you go back to stage 1, where the Gladiators were still running with iRemix as main tank, they were a bottom tier team. I think they might have even been third place at this point. They had a really good game against the Philadelphia Fusion, but it went to 5, and ultimately it came down to them not being able to deal with Carpe on his Widowmaker, and just not being able to hang with Carpe and Shadowburn and that DPS duo. Now they brought in Fisher. The team is playing the best they've ever played, and we're still looking, though, at them having the same problems. I don't want to go into it too much because I harped on it last week. I harp on it every week. But until the management, the coach, and people who are running the team realize and admit that the 3 DPS they have are not good enough, this is the kind of result I expect from the Gladiators. I expect for them, they'll punch above their weight at times, like against the London Spitfire. Although for that game, I feel London came in, they were thinking they had an easy game, and it came back to bite them. Here, it's you look at it and you're saying, Gladiators, what is your plan? If their plan here and their plan going forward is to match someone like the Philadelphia Fusion, Widow v Widow, they will lose. If that is their plan, it will end in a loss for them because they don't have the consistency at that position that they need.
Yeah, Carpe here on the Widowmaker doing really good work against them, and just giving him some numbers there on the Widowmaker matchup.
It's not just Carpe though, because here, and it's the Fusion making use of that extended roster that I love to talk about. And you say, well, okay, the Gladiators have an extended roster. They have 3 DPS. Not quite. They have 3 DPS, but they're 3 average pro DPS. I'm just being honest with you right now. Yep. I'm looking at Snillo, not Leplos. We missed Snillo's debut last week, right?
Which was impactful when he came out.
A limited amount of time. But here, and I'm only mentioning it here because it's on Route 66, and looking ahead, there's a chance that it might come up again. But the Fusion are using that roster because here they are fighting for the playoff spot. And I'm talking about Ikeo, Carpe, and Snillo, and there's no Shadowburn. And it's like the Philadelphia Fusion have that many options where a player of Shadowburn's caliber not even being used.
Yeah, no,
and that's what I want from the Gladiators.
Listen, when most teams can get to that point where they can train talent to be Overwatch League ready on the day of or a given day, and you're not.
Milo just turned 18 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and he's clearly well practiced, Jax, and able to step in there. Did good work here. Important win for the Fusion. That puts them within striking distance of
Gladiators
playoffs.
Now no longer a fate, no longer in their hands.
Yep.
Because Seoul is above them. Philadelphia is above them. So to make it to the playoffs now, they'll need help. Then they'll also need to win their next game. But the second game of day 1, week 5, no playoff implications here, if we're honest. Florida Mayhem versus San Francisco Shock. No playoff implications, but you and I both felt that these two teams have something to prove because they're close to being on the ascendancy. You're not sure if what you've seen from them in the past couple of weeks in their past few games is legit or if it's just them being middling and it was their time to be on the good side of middling and not the bad side.
Yeah. Three major notes, Jackson, for this game coming out of it. Sinatra available. That's the first note I want to start off with because that before any of the map score lines, that's important, right?
Okay.
He's coming in, he's coming in, he's available, he's playing.
Nilo had his debut, performed admirably, and earned his way into continued games. So now 150K is in. That means Baby Bay and Dante, they have the San Francisco Shock now have to figure out their DPS rotation and see what works.
Yeah, so well, they're running Sinatra pretty often throughout this matchup, but let's just talk about the scoreline here because it's sort of telling what happened here in terms of both teams not being consistent yet. 1-0 Volskaya Industries goes the way of Mayhem. So starting out with a shutout, not what you want. 2-0 Nepal Shock, so another shutout. Jax 3-2 Kings Royal, at least that one was close. Route 66 2-1 Shock. That forces game 5 on Ilios, and on Ilios it's a 2-0 again, Jax, as another shutout going on. Jax, both these teams struggling on certain maps against certain compositions, not looking good in terms of the consistency of their play. You can't say these teams are looking, or they looked evenly matched only on the basis that they both had very poor maps of their own. Right. So.
I found out a little bit about San Francisco. They're the team, San Francisco more than Florida. I had questions about, and I kind of got my answers. Week 3, San Francisco beat Dallas, lost to New York. Right, that's expected. Week 4, San Francisco loses to London, beats Houston. Houston, another iffy team. So now you come to the final week. You're saying San Francisco versus Florida. If San Francisco is on their way up, they should beat Florida. They didn't, and not only did they not beat them on some maps that weren't even competitive. So right now, San Francisco still has a long ways to go. Super, his birthday, I think, is this week. So come stage 3, they'll have Super available. I think the rumors, I don't know, has it been confirmed or not, but they have more players coming in, more DPS. I think they have an off tank coming in. So San Francisco still has to figure out things level up.
And I think that's pretty fair too, particularly when you look at the lack of output coming out of Nomi and Nevix, particularly in comparison to Swoosh and Manitin, who were doing a fairly good job, I think, or at least more consistent job this time around for the Mayhem.
I think it's part of San Francisco's problem because while at times DPS shine, like DPS always end up shining more than the others, unless you're Jay Jonak or Fissure. But when you look at Overwatch League teams at the top, the tanks play such a big part of it. You look at the Gladiators and how they've changed with Fissure compared to iRemix, or you look at how bad Dallas was playing when they had Time Win on that tank position. Yeah. And you realize, right, tanks are a huge part of this. Not just your damage, but your tanks, because the damage has to work in tandem with them. And Nomi, Nomi, like iRemix, he's a solid backup though. I don't see him as a main starter tank. I just don't.
Not right now.
I don't.
Not until they work on the mechanical issues that are.
I mean, good one for Florida. Good one for Florida.
Yeah. Can we also mention two other things? DPS, like you mentioned, yeah, they come alive. Jax Tavik finally showing up in clutch ways that we haven't seen in a long time. That Widowmaker play on Ilios, huge barrage to secure that first point on the well. If I remember correctly, he had that good one there, came out alive there, and then Logic's shutting it down, Baby Bay on Ruins, I believe, on the Widow play, and maybe a bit of Widow's Trap if I remember that matchup correctly there, and that's not something you want to see happen for the Shock. Let's move along.
Something we did know. The next game though, the third game of day 1, things we did want to see, right? Ado and Fearless, they got the visas done. I think they flew in like the day or 2 days before, so
we knew they were going to play, Jax.
Very limited. I mean, they kind of had to because Undead and Dia both unavailable.
Such a problem for Dragons right now with them not available. Clearly, they need more time to practice with the team, and I can't even imagine communication is there with the coordination is there amongst them in the team right now.
So scoreline here: 4-0 for Houston, 1-0 on Volskaya, 2-0 on Li Zhang, 2-1 on Kings Row, and 1-0 on Watch Point. Yeah, so another sad result for the Shanghai Dragons. But they're starting to get tools. Although from what I'm hearing, the people who went back to China, they have to go through the visa process again because they only had one-time entry visas. So hopefully in the next 9 days, 10 days before stage 4, they can get things sorted out because their third pickup, Gajuri, she flew in the day before their second game of the week, which we'll come to.
But they
Sadly,
didn't
she didn't
put her
play.
in, thankfully. Like,
But the players, we just gotta get it. They have to get everybody here now. They've got them signed. Now let's get them here so they can play. We're on to day 2, Lepelos. Houston Outlaws versus the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul, as we said, one of the 4 teams vying for that third playoff spot. Should be an easy win here. Houston's been playing very poorly this stage. Seoul, meanwhile, playing very well, and they just need to lock it up.
yeah, and Jax ends up not being what Dynasty want whatsoever. They seem to have a weakness versus Outlaws. Dynasty maybe not taking Outlaws as serious as they should either, part of an issue. But let's talk about scoreline before I break it down a little bit
Okay.
further. Hanamura 2-1, Nepal 2-1 for Outlaws, Nepal 2-0 for Dynasty, and then Kings Row 4-3 Outlaws, Gibraltar 3-2 Outlaws. Junk Rat check. Jax, does Dynasty have a junk rat check right now problem? Like, can they handle it? The answer clearly is no, they can't handle it because who runs junk rat on B point of Hanamura? First off, right? Nobody does that. They said on the Outlaws that in Jake's interview they just went with it. Clearly, it worked out because whatever Dynasty had planned, it was damaged enough by the Junkrat that they didn't know what to do. Maybe Junkrat still meta, at least if you're Jake versus Dynasty, because he was
I mean,
definitely one on the map there.
Junkrat is still viable, right? It's more of a skill shot now for the mine, but Jake has always been one of the better players with the mine. He's always been really creative with the tire. So Junkrat for the Houston Outlaws still very much meta. I think for players at the pro level, Junkrat should still be viable because they should all be using the mine as a skill shot instead of just, oh hey, we threw it out there and we hit something. Um
Yeah,
Lepelos, I'm looking at the lineup here for the Seoul Dynasty, and I have questions for you because we went through this in stage 1 where there were games or maps, I should say, where they put Flea on the bench or they put Toby on the bench and ran Guido in place of Toby. So here I have Ryu Hong, I have Toby, I have Zumba, I have Munchkin, and then those are the only 4 regular starters that they have. I'm looking at Kuki in on main tank. I'm looking at Wikid in for that second DPS spot. And I have to ask you, when you're fighting for a playoff spot, yes, it's not the end of the season playoff spot, end of stage playoff spot, right? Which does mean something. It's money for your players or for your team.
yeah.
It's for your fans who want to get those playoff victories. When you're fighting for a playoff spot, do you bench your main tank and your best DPS player?
No, Jax. If you were to ask me how I would coach these teams in terms of to get their bench players on to the lineup and practice, particularly if you're coming up to these final weeks where the game matters, but you feel like you have a chance, you start with your A lineup. You win maybe 2 maps, and for the third map, you say we're going to put the bench guys in, and go with that for the third map regardless because you have to do that anyways. But and then you play out fourth and fifth maps again with your starters, right?
I think
That's what
I
you should do.
I think they kind of fell into a trap. It's not a trap of their own making. It's the trap that the Overwatch League
You can't make a
administration
change.
created, Lepelos.
Yeah,
This here is the poor substitution effect coming,
absolutely.
rearing its ugly head. If you take it back, Hanamura, right? You thinking, okay, on the first round of Hanamura, they held for almost 7 minutes, and so if you're the coaching staff at that point where you have to make a substitution, you don't because you held them to 8. They didn't get that second point, so you're thinking it's working, we're fine. However, you then fail to meet that distance, but you can't substitute for the second map because it's too late. So then you go to the second map and you're saying, well, we took that first round 100 to 50. And at that point, you're saying, we're good, right? Yeah, we didn't get the first map, but here we are on the second map, and we did it.
Yeah,
And so then you take the second round, 199, and you're comfortable with what's happened. So then you go to King's Row and you lose.
and
And
you had to make
that's
your
the second map.
decision.
And
You had to make your decision before the end of the first round to be.
I mean, thankfully, they made the decision, right? They
Yeah,
took Wakid out. and they put in Fleta. But what kind of warm up has he had?
Yeah,
Because 3 maps have gone on. He's been in. I mean, he might have been in a competitive game, right, on an alt account. So he was probably playing, or he was probably doing something. But that's still not being warmed up and ready for an actual game here, where something big is on the line. And it was watch point, and had to play Widow against what hexagrams and other people, and data might suggest Linkser being the best counter Widow. And you're looking at this and you're saying, what a rough position for Fleta to be in, to come off the bench with a playoff spot on the line. And I think you've said in Discord, you've never seen Fleta get beat like this.
absolutely not.
Was forced off Widow.
I can't think of another time where he's been so absolutely so shut down. And we're not talking like trading 50-50s. Maybe we should switch. We're just talking hard shut down by Linkser here on the Widowmaker when it came down to it. And that's great play out of Linkser. I mean, obviously, if we saw this Linkser all the time, Outlaws would have not lost a few of those other games that they had. Here, though, they won a big one against Dynasty. Dynasty dropping this series, and all of a sudden they're in trouble for a playoff spot.
I can't. But see, the Dynasty coaching staff coming into it is the coaching staff I had the most respect for because of the pedigree that they had coming from OGN. They had the Lunatic High coach, they had the GC Busan coach, and now this is the second stage where they've outthought themselves with this roster. I get it. You know, you and I are both fans of having the extended roster. We talked about how well it served the Philadelphia Fusion. And them getting, we're saying, well, okay, they bench Shadowburn and brought in Nikio and Snillo in one, so the Dynasty are doing the same thing. They bench Fleta and they bring in Wiki. No, not at all, not at all. And
not
coming
performing.
stage 3, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see any games. If it's not locked up, if you don't have that playoff spot, don't do this, please. I mean, I get it. Who am I to question them? But when I have these results, I have to question it. I have to.
Jax, I agree with you to a point. Like I think if you're playing a team that you can beat, there is probably a better way to handle your resource management. Like you don't assume you're going for the win, but you give yourself either opportunities, like either start out 2 maps with your A team, try and secure two maps, give your B squad map 3 maybe, and then put your A team back in for map 4, something like that, so that you're getting everybody in there. And giving them a chance. And the more comfortable they are, maybe you give them map 3 and 4 and go back to A squad for map 5. Something like that. But I don't like this idea that like you don't want to give up early leads to an opponent that wants to upset you, right? Like you build your lead, then you give your second string a chance. You don't go the other way around. That's, I think, maybe a bit of the issue they had here, and I agree with you, something that they should look on. Jax, let's move on. Next game of the day, NYXL Fuel.
This is a stomp, dude. This is a stomp.
Big surprise here, though. A couple surprises. Seagull in Jax. Seagull in on Diva. Mickey on Winston. Timer going back to DPS. Something about him having an extended bowel movement apparently allowed Seagull to step in during a scrim, and they did very well with that.
Where is Coco? Maintain.
And Coco is streaming these days. He's going the XQC route, although only nicer and not annoying. I've watched his stream. Very, very nice guy. Very, very calm and relaxed guy. There on stream, maybe as Coach Kai said, not somebody with the proper. What is it?
Mindset, mentality. I think it's mindset.
Yeah, apparently that there is some internal strife going on with Fuel. Coco looking like he's not going to get a spot back, judging by his streaming hours, I'll be honest.
I mean, you say judging by his streaming hours. I mean, they've gone from XQC to OGE, who's suspended for 4 games. I'm going to avoid that drama. And they go from Taimu now to Mickey, and all the while Coco, who is an actual main tank, is just chilling. He's collecting a paycheck from Jack in the Box.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, so now coming into this game against the number 1 team in the league overall and the stage, I'm expecting New York Excelsior to stomp them.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, Jax. But here, let's talk about it. It starts off that way. NYXL able to take Hanamura 4-3. Although interesting that Fuel having trouble on 2CP in the past managed to get through Hanamura here a little bit. So that was a good start for them. But more surprisingly, Lijiang Tower, Fuel breaking out an interesting strat on Control Center. think it's worth talking about because it caught NYXL off guard here with a Reaper May DPS combo coming in and to great effectiveness as they destroy NYXL on that round.
Reaper May is actually a strat we saw a lot over in Korea.
Yeah.
Even after Reaper May kind of fell out of the meta, I think it was the last season of OGN where at times people on Anubis specifically, Anubis attack or something, they would run Reaper May and it would fail tremendously, and you and I would be like, "What are they doing?" So it's working here. I think this is more the Excelsior not being prepared for this, because you can't be prepared for this, because it was the day before this match happened that Taimu had the extended bathroom break and Seagull just had to step in, and the coaching staff was like, okay, this is what we're going to run. So I think this is New York being completely caught out. That being said, if you're the best team in the league, you have to be prepared for the unexpected. And here, Dallas Fuel has caught them napping.
Yeah, absolutely. 2-0 on Lee Zhang Tower to take that one. Move to Hollywood. Ends up going NYXL, though, for Hollywood. 3-2 puts us on to Gibraltar. And Jackson, surprising Gibraltar here coming out of Dallas. Rascal in effect on the field this time after sorting some personal feelings for Rascal out this week. We had him on for Gibraltar this time instead of AKM. And it made a difference. Gibraltar able to be taken by Fuel to force a Game 5 against NYXL. Very big upset for taking 2 maps for the Fuel here. Unable to close it out, though, in the end. Ilios 2-0 NYXL for the win and the 3-2 victory over the Fuel. Not a big surprise in the final result. Bit of a surprise how we got there, though, with
no
2
surprise
maps
that
going for Fuel.
Excelsior won. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking, one, no AKM. Didn't play at all there.
Yeah.
Taimu didn't play. We already talked about Coco. And so I have to look at the tanks, right? Because it's the only thing that has really changed. Okay, Rascal and AKM on DPS, that changed somewhat, but also no Harry Hook. I'm the tanks, and I take you back to what I was saying about the San Francisco Shock and Nomi and Nevix, and how they're underperforming, and how the Dallas Fuel have been underperforming with Taimu and Mickey. Now you've got Mickey and Seagull, and the tank synergy is better. And a number of people are suggesting, and I say suggesting when it's almost proven, though, that Mickey is better on the Winston than the Diva.
Yeah.
People are saying, and I agree, that Mickey's Diva, which used to be one of the best in the West, has suffered since the changes to Diva, where the Matrix got nerfed, where the missiles got a boost, not a boost, but the missiles were introduced, and basically Diva was changed, and he never really adapted to the change as well as other Diva players did. And so now I'm looking at this and the Dallas Fuel, I'm saying, okay, if this is what they like, and if OGE, I think this will be 2 of his 4 games that will have been served. So come stage 3, when OGE is available, and how highly Coach Kai speaks of him, I'm now wondering, is Mickey on the bench, Lepelos?
Another tank gone for Fuel. We'll see. We'll see.
If Mickey doesn't adapt, because Mickey, while also being a Diva player, he's the emotional rock, right? He's the happy guy who keeps the spirits up when your teeth are getting mashed in, and so now I'm wondering, are we going to start to see
bunch of questions with Fuel?
Here we have no Taimu, we have no Harry Hook, we have no Coco. That's half of the old Envious roster on the bench.
Yeah, in fact, we only had Effect and Chipson. If you're and Mickey. Okay, so yeah, they're down severely. Their team, they're not finding good cohesion with their members yet, and this is a long-standing issue with them and how they've been treating the members that are going to. And I don't mean XQC. I mean, look at what they've done with Coco. Look how they've handled Chips, who lost his confidence for a while there, and how they've handled bringing in new people. It's all being up in the air. They continue to struggle. Let's move on, though. We had another game here for some importance for Boston. I think there was a chance for them, if they win enough, buy enough, and other teams lose, and there was a chance for them, if I remember correctly.
Chance, but a chance, yes.
Yeah, Shock shut that down by taking a couple maps here. At least a 4-3 Hanamura for Shock. Strike back by Boston, 2-0 on Nepal, then 2-1 on Hollywood. Shock able to force game 5. Route 66 goes their way, 3-2. Ilios closed out with some good play from Dream Casper again against San Francisco Shock, particularly on the well. I think it was Striker, or sorry, not the well, on Lighthouse. I think if I remember correctly, that's where it ended with Striker doing some really good work as well on
Was
that.
it
That round.
Lighthouse? I think it was no, it was Ruins. I think the final round was Ruins because I remember. Well, at some point, it went all 3 rounds here, and the thing that bothered me, with San Francisco is they took out Baby Bay. And I'm saying to
You're
myself,
correct,
because I remember you and I were watching this along with someone, I forgot his name. He was the new guy who stopped by the Discord, but we were watching this, and I said, do they take the chance? Because on Ilios, there's, there's a chance you get Ruins, and then you're stuck in Widow Hell. And San Francisco Shock had been struggling with the Widowmaker because Dream Casper, kind of whatever Dream Casper flexed to, he seemed to be winning most of the time. And here, when I saw that they benched Baby Bay and they kept Sinatra and Dante, and I'm saying to myself, they're going to go a Gladiator-like strat where they don't exactly go on the Ruins phase specifically. They don't go exactly for the direct Widow counter. I'm saying because Baby Bay was their best Widow. So I'm thinking to myself, they're going to go out of the box. And the coach, his name is Brad. That's all I know. Coach Brad for San Francisco, he always talks about wanting flexible players. He wants people who can adapt and change. And so I'm thinking to myself, he got something planned. And then we come to the Ruins phase, and what do I see? I see 150K on Widow. On Widow, man.
Not earning his money there, Jax.
He gets his face smashed in.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying to myself, you went through all this to get here to map 5. You bench your best hit scan player, and you run him on Widow. And at that point, I was like, San Francisco, you're done. They, like so many other teams, and it's something we've talked about, how a lot of times it comes down to who has the better Widow. And I think it was New York. Was it New York against someone? It was someone on the Ruins face. They completely bypassed the Widow v Widow, and I want to say it was New York because they had Sabobi, Libero, and I think Mono. And what they did, it was against Seoul. Was it not against Seoul?
I would have to go.
Yes, it was week 4. New York versus Seoul, and it went 5, and it was on the Ruins. And New York they said we're not. They didn't even try.
We're not going to deal with
fight Fleta.
Yeah.
They said Fleta, you want to stay on the Widow? That's fine. And every time Fleta tried to set up, someone was in his face, and it wasn't just one person. It was Libero on the Genji. It was Sabobi. It was the Winston. Someone was always pressuring him, and that's what I was hoping to see San Francisco, but it didn't happen. And so San Francisco, for me, not on the ascendancy. I talked about this being a big week for them. Poor results.
I mean, they took Boston to 5. Was about the best you can say, but Boston's also sitting down in the rankings this stage as well. So you can't say this was like a huge thing for them. I
expected Boston to win 3-1. I was surprised that they actually took 2 maps here.
Yeah, so I think that's more. I mean, Jax, let's talk about it. You actually had Shock here to win.
Did I?
You did.
Did they let me down? See, no, they let me down. See,
they let us down both times. We both had them against Miami.
I completely forgot.
Florida, but
they had their I sincerely thought that if I scrolled up in the Discord a few days ago, I had to scroll up a lot. I was writing there as it was live. I'm saying they've got a plan. They have some strategy, and it was the strategy. Just Sinatra, you go Widow's Trap, you sit in it. We're just gonna write this off, and we'll come back for stage 3. Let's on to the next game.
Yeah, next day going to be a bit of a quick one to get through. Dynasty versus Florida. Scorelines 4-3 Volskaya Industry. Dynasty 2-1 Nepal. Dynasty. Big one here though. Again, Dynasty showing maybe they want to just play with their food a little bit. Coming out with a Doomfist strat on Hollywood, if I remember correctly here, against the Florida defense. Jax, Florida so bad on Hollywood. Never won a map this whole stage on Hollywood. Here, full hold Dynasty on A point.
That was so bad that Florida themselves, Maniton on his stream said, yeah, this is why we played Zappos that week, because we were so bad. It's our worst map, and we just tried anything. And I think this is, again, the Seoul coaches. I think at times they outthink
Yeah,
themselves.
they finesse too much.
Why Doomfist just beat them?
Unless they're just like as I said, unless they're just playing around, like knowing that they've got this, like no problem, and they're like, let's try something different, which I don't
The
agree
thing
with
is,
here.
while they're no longer on the inside track for the playoffs, they still have a chance, and every map matters.
Yeah, we got to Malik this approach here on Hollywood, and
Okay.
unfortunately, Dynasty giving that one up is big. At least for Florida, that's good to get that ghost out of the way this stage, right? Get that map
Definitely.
done. So Route 66 though, Fleta coming through Route 66 for the 3-1 on the Dynasty victory, and for the series score too. Let's move on. Discuss another big game that happened here. Valiant need to win if LA Gladiators stand a chance to get in.
Yeah.
With a simple win.
LA Gladiators needed the help from their crosstown rivals, the Valiant. I forget there's a Twitter exchange between the two teams. I'll have to see if I can find it, but
that was a pretty good Twitter exchange.
There was an in and out reference that
there definitely was after. But the major one of that. Well, we'll come to that shortly. Let's talk about the score lines here a little bit first. Hanamura 3-2 going Philly. Valiant respond 2-0 of Nepal. Philly 3-2 3-0 Kings Row. 3-2 Gibraltar for Valiant. We've pushed it to 5 games. Goes 2-1 on Elios, the side of Fusion. Very back and forward game here again. Valiant. They had the whole agility. Like we mentioned this off the start today with Agility's here. Agility's playing this game. He had an insane Nepal, I believe, if you remember the stats that came out from that, something like 15k or something like that damage on his Pharah of all heroes. Damage boosted, yeah, so like taking that away, maybe like 10, 11k, I think, is what it would be pure damage, which is still an insane damage amount coming out. So he did well there, but at other times he was completely shut down here by Fusion.
It's. I wish I had access to the coach so I could ask him. You played Agilities on the first 4 maps, and then on the 5th map tiebreaker, you bench him.
And you put Kareev back in. If that's just their plan that they've been going with because he has practice on that, then that's what you do, right? What you don't do though, Jax, is what Valiant did on Lighthouse, which is stay in a fight way longer than you should have. I mean, listen, no one from the is anyone from the old Immortals still playing on Valiant main roster now? Like, they certainly looked like they were the old Immortals the way they tried to stay in on that fight. Particularly soon,
they were
I think.
Scrappy, dude. That's what we liked about the old Immortals, though. They were scrappy, and there'd be times they would be in a fight. You're saying they're not gonna win this fight, and then they won the fight, and you're like, how did they win this fight? And I'm looking at the overall result here, 3-2 for the Valiant, and it's kind of indicative of the Valiant, the entire stage. You never know. You at no point did we ever feel like we knew what to expect from this team. I think you and I both picked the Fusion to win, right? Like, we expected the Fusion to win, but it's because we didn't.
You don't trust the Valiant right now. In the last little bit of the Lighthouse is really a prime example where it could have gone their way if things, a miraculous play by Soon or two happened, but instead he got sort of staggered, and the team didn't have a really good last fight in the last 15-25% of the point. You have enough time if they didn't do that to re-engage properly and have one good fight, but instead you banked on being able to win a messy fight, and you lose.
Let me just give you some numbers right quick, Lepelos. Week 3, Gladiators 4, Valiant 0. Valiant 4, Houston 0. What? Week 5, Florida 3, Valiant 1. Boston 3, Valiant 2. And then you come here to this game, Philly 3, Valiant 2. Is it the coach? Because they made the coaching change after stage 1. The new coach didn't physically arrive until the middle of stage 2. So he didn't have a presence there. He was just, long distance communicate. So he wasn't in the dugout.
That might be
because the talent is still here. This was supposed to be a better stage for them because Mercy was no longer an every map pick, and their Mercy was terrible. Whether it was Kareev, Uncle, or Verbal, all of them were bad. And so you're saying we're getting rid of that, and we're bringing in more Zen and Moira or Lucio. Verbal, fantastic Lucio.
Yeah.
Why are they performing worse?
They look like a team that hasn't been coming together, and they're all becoming their own islands.
Not a team, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look,
which I agree with.
Go and look at Mayhem. I don't think Mayhem has been doing better, and it's not because their individual plays as a whole, like each of their individual plays are coming that much better. It's because that their team plays are becoming better overall, and that's making a huge impact in their play overall. Like they're still not doing great, but you can see that they're improving. Here, Valiant, you're so dependent on individual plays coming through that you don't know who's going to win or lose a fight because you don't know which Valiant player may or may not show up. And it's largely being reliant on Soon or Unko, let's be honest. Soon or Unko.
Kareem has had his moments,
right?
I
mean, he has his moments. Agility's has his moments too, but again, less than Soon or Unko is what I'm trying to say. And again, you can't rely on those two people, though.
And look at Fate and Envy, and they had, again, I'm thinking about what you're saying. They had their moments. Them too. Even the tanks. Fate and Envy both had moments where they stepped up and did big things. Where if you could take Gesture and the 2 DPS from London, or I think I said today when we were watching the playoffs, I said, Sabobi hasn't had a bad game yet.
Yeah.
Right? He's like Mr. Consistency when it comes to Tracer. And you look at the Valiant, and they're all inconsistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like that's the same problem that we've seen with the field, though, right? You talked about like one or two players doing well, and then like in the case of Fuel, it was Effect formerly prior to the season. The longer this goes on, Jax, the more trouble they will have. That's what I'm trying to say. Last
question for you with this before we go to the next game. We saw in the video, Agilities was basically told this is his last chance. Did he do enough? Although I guess we still have another game to come.
Yeah.
But that next game.
We'll come to that, Jax. Let's go ahead and they do have one more game.
Have that question in your mind as we go on this game here.
Yeah. Okay. Next game, really quick to discuss. It's another Shanghai Dragons game. This time it's London taking them on Shanghai on the home court, you could say, but it doesn't really matter. 2-0 Hanamura, 2-0 Li Jiang, 3-0 Hollywood, 3-1 Gibraltar. Jax, you don't even need to say what team names are winning all those maps, because you know it's the Spitfire here coming through with a 4-0.
I feel bad. Ado, after that first game, Lepelos, he came in. He played one game that he'd been in town for like 2 days, and he had a Twitter post saying he took it all on his shoulders. He's like, I'm sorry for how bad I played. He's talking about he putting down his phone, putting down all these outside distractions, and he's going to focus. I mean, one, I commend that, but it's not his fault, man.
No, it's not his fault. And like, if you're management of a team,
exactly.
you gotta stop that before it begins. You can't have somebody coming in and immediately apologizing and feeling like they're responsible. He's coming in a poor situation. They're not going to win games. You can't have them apologize for like day one, week one, month one right now of trying to right this ship. And the mental game is important, and they're I mean, especially for DPS, right? We saw it with Taimu and how he lost his confidence with his DPS play, with his hit scan ability. And if I'm the Shanghai Dragons, and not just Shanghai, and I'm not Lepelos, it seems like we talk about this often. Almost, I saw a Reddit post where someone said it sounds as if all these teams to hire a therapist. They just all of them, because I'm looking at the New York XL, and they're the number one team in the league. So you're saying they're riding high, right? Nothing's wrong there. And then you look at the Twitter post that Pine put out, and you see he needs help there. He needs mental. I'm not saying he's crazy, right? Yeah.
He just needs that support.
Yeah. To get yourself mentally and to be like, I am a good player. And
you spent $20 million for these teams. You're paying these, hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary just for your players, right? Help them out here.
Oh, they can't even afford media people, Jax. And so.
Sure they can. I mean, hey, props to the Fusion. Chef Heidi. I love her Twitter, Lepelos, for the Philadelphia Fusion. She does all the food that they cook for the Fusion. I think that's why they're playing so well.
Jack, speaking of food fueling people, we're talking about fuel in London in the next game.
Okay.
London still needing still hungry here. Able to take
London
this one.
Fighting New York for that overall first spot so that you get the bye in the playoffs. And you go right to the championship round.
They want every map here, Jackson. They're only able to take 3 out of the 4. Dallas able to sneak off Hollywood from them in a hard-fought win. But at least Dallas able to take 1 map here off of London as well, Jax. I wanted to mention Li Jiang Tower. We talked 2 days prior to this. They brought out the May Reaper. Here comes out again, works on Spitfire as well, despite Spitfire having seen it prior. So, might have legs of the strat. We'll see in the long term. Still running Mickey Seagull on the day, maybe to less effect than they had against the NYXL.
I just want to point out the day before London and their extended roster, we saw some Hureg and some Hagopin, and here against Dallas Fuel, we sing A-Team. I think the only thing we did not see Fury at all. We saw Huyal, no Fury, but we saw Huyal, but we had Prophet, Birdring, Bedosin, Gesture, Nuss, all of their games, Lepelos. All of them.
Huyal's a really strong diva too. I know he's not their A-Team one, but he's pretty comparable in my mind, at least, as well.
Very much so.
Like more so than I would say like Hagapun or Hureg being comparable to Birdring or Prophet. You know what I mean? Because I do think Wuyal's really really close to that diva slot.
I'm just looking at it because we talked about the Seoul Dynasty trying to incorporate their second string players. And it's about win. So against the Shanghai Dragons, that's when we saw Hagopin and Hureg, right? And against Dallas, and I'm thinking if this had been a Dallas with Taimu, we might, I doubt it, we might have still seen some of those second string London Spitfire players. But because it was this new look Dallas and they did not want to get caught out, they're saying, listen, we need our maps. We're going to bring the heavy hitters. They didn't quite make it, but they're still in the playoffs. They got second place locked up. We go to New York versus the Valiant Lepelos. I don't think there are no playoff implications at this point, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no impact of this game. Maybe no impact for the teams on this game. We still don't know about the In-N-Out Burger meeting after the fact for Valiant here.
I did not watch the next episode.
I haven't seen if there was one
Stop
after.
by the Los Angeles Valiant YouTube page. It's fantastic production here. Fantastic. Listen. We may not agree with what they're telling us. I love it, though, Level. I love it that they have PR. Because I look at Dallas, shambles. Their PR, disaster. That is what, if I'm an up-and-coming franchise owner and I'm putting my staff together, I'm saying, Dallas Fuel, we don't want to be like that. We got to find that sweet spot. But there's a new episode from the Los Angeles Valiant. I got to watch it.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to watch it too because it was pretty ridiculous what they set it up. But maybe they're just producing the story for us, Jax. I don't know. What they're not producing is results here against NYXL.
So I'm getting insight into the coach.
Let's go and talk about this. NYXL 4-3 Volskaya, 2-0 Nepal, 1-0 Hollywood, 3-2 Route 66. Strong performance coming out of NYXL in destroying Valiant's efforts here on this final day of the regular season.
They didn't mess around, and I asked you the question now. You didn't answer before. Did Agilities do enough with this final chance?
I don't think Agilities is a problem on Valiant, so I think pinning him as the issue was wrong here. You have, in one of the episodes, you hear Krieve saying that he didn't particularly want to play DPS, so that tells me that either they had so little faith in Agilities right now, or there's larger team issues at play. When you put somebody that doesn't want to play one of those positions into that position, there is an undercurrent to the team that we don't know about entirely that is causing the problems. I don't want to get into the rumors. There are a lot of people saying...
I was just about to ask the rumors, man.
The rumors
are... trade the French connection here. Okay, we're not touching rumors. Okay.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, you touched it, so I'll comment on this overall, right? Like, quote-unquote overall. But it's not a surprise to me that you'll find on Reddit people are blaming Unko and Soon, specifically them, because of their nationality. I think that's pretty unfair. We have no idea what's going on. I think it's natural for a lot of teammates with egos to want to put blame on somebody, and if that somebody is on their team, it's you don't see it, and we won't see who it is or what's happening usually, unless you're at Dallas Fuel, in which case you do. Here, though, we don't know entirely what's going on internally, and Agilities always has been an up and down player, had some down moments early in stage one. Here, I don't think he was the reason. Maybe not as consistent as, say, you would want out of a player. Like, if he was a libero, you'd be disappointed in that level of play. He's not up to libero's standards yet. He has a lot of potential, and I think if you shut
Young,
that
he's what,
potential
18,
down,
19, 18?
I think if you shut that potential now, you may not only cause issues for your own team, you're causing issues for this player going forward. Period, with how they're treating him. So we'll see what comes of it. I don't like the team building nature that they've had over the stages so far. Jax, let's talk about final game of the week. It's
Playoff
Uprising.
implications here.
What's that?
Playoff implications.
Yeah.
Sorry, you say Uprising versus Gladiators, and I was interjecting a little too early that there are massive playoff implications here for the third place spot because
Gladiators needing to win
it's in their
3-0
hand.
or 4-0.
It's in their hand. Again, it's in their hands. If you want the playoffs, Gladiators, it is here.
Yeah, you got to be hungry. Jax, I was actually with you. I thought, regardless of the situation going in, I thought they were going to feel good enough about this game in order to take this one off the Uprising. Because Uprising had been showing some weakness. I mean, they even got pushed to 5 by Shock, right?
Yeah.
So there was opportunity. I believe we also marked out the major issue being if Baby Bay's Widow comes out and does well, that could be a point of weakness for Gladiators.
If I take a look at it, Boston in week 4 they beat Dallas 4-0, got pushed. They got 3-2 against Valiant, and then as you said in week 5, their first game, they went to 5 against the San Francisco Shock. So for a team who they beat Dallas, big whoop. The Valiant and the Shock are both very iffy. At this point, you're saying you have to think Gladiators have this. Maybe 3-0, 4-0, maybe not, but should be a solid win for them. 3-1. That kind of thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not start out well for them whatsoever on Volskaya. Immediately shields down Jax because Volskaya goes 2-1 after a failed attack on Gladiators' B point.
I have to point out here, the Boston Uprising, they had 209 seconds left in the time bank after they kept out Volskaya. So no real defense here. And
Shield's still down on Li Zhang, Jax.
They didn't even get a tick on Volskaya B point.
No,
0%.
it was not close. They looked a little deflated when it came down to Li Zhang Tower, losing that 1-2-0 to Boston Uprising. Hollywood,
100-0. Okay, were they broken? Because they knew at that point playoffs were gone, right?
You had to have some deflation. Absolutely.
Mentally, are they done?
I mean, this is the question. True, people with good fortitude will be able to bring it back. Here on Li Zhang, it didn't come immediately for them. They fought, but they didn't look like they.
It looked terrible.
Yeah, they didn't look strong at that point. Jax did manage to break it out on Hollywood for the 4-3 victory here over Boston Uprising, and also coming alive on Route 66 for a 5-4 long run on a really close matchup. In order to, so we talk about fortitude. Maybe the rebound wasn't quick, but it was significant here to force the game 5. Elios close map, but goes the way of Boston 2-1. Striker doing some really good work on
Striker stepped up. Striker, we don't talk about Striker. One, limited on time, but 2, we focus on Dreamcatcher because Striker is so consistent. I think almost every week we get the same level of output as Striker. It's at a pretty high level. And so we look at Dreamcatcher as the one, can he consistently put it out? Or can Gamsu consistently put it out? And now I don't really want to get into it because I've already said it, but I know he's Canadian, and you're kind of obligated to support him.
like I did Agilities.
He is not doing it.
He
is not doing it. Not at all. Not enough.
I don't think it's a in-and-out burger type of talk we need to have with Surefour, but there is definitely discussion that needs to happen for Gladiators management and coaching staff when it comes to training and preparing their DPS players. Right now, there seems to be something lacking out of that right now. I'm not saying these players don't have potential. It's clear when they hit their stride, they are performing well. But you can't rely on Fissure to create all of the space in order for that to happen. There needs to be better interplay.
Incredible player, man. Incredible play out of Fissure. Shaz and Big
absolutely,
I think Shaz and Big Goose, they still have ultimate issues where their support ultimates are used at odd times. I don't really have a big problem with Bishu.
He's not outstanding off tank, but he's not the worst.
I don't have any compared. I think if you kind of want to, you've got the Fury or Mako from from the Excelsior, right? And the London Spitfire. And then you got Bishu. I put Bishu in like the tier 2 professional diva.
Yeah,
But if you go down to tier 3, that's where I'm kind of looking at where Mickey was, or where I'm looking at Nevix as much
Nevix.
as I love Nevix is down there. Poco, I think, is on that level with Bishu, maybe a little bit better because he gets more ultimate value.
Except for his flex is not as good, I would argue. Like, I would say Bishu much stronger Zarya than Poco's Zarya.
No spoilers there.
I'm not giving spoilers, but listen, we will be talking about his Zarya play a little bit when we're coming to the next episode. Reminder, guys, we are almost done our coverage here. But anyways,
let me ask you right now. Do you think, have the Gladiators coaching staff seen enough, or do you feel they will find a DPS player? Specifically, I think they have to find a Widow. They have to find someone who can play Widow. They have to. Because I don't think they can run the counter Widow strat that New York ran with their Genji Tracer.
Yeah, I mean, I personally do like a 4 DPS lineup. If you can train them well to the high level.
Do you think they make the change, or do you think they just stay? They're comfortable with
if they're not going to hire a new DPS lineup, they need to get specific coach, maybe 1 or 2 assistant coaches specifically for DPS and DPS preparation, because they need to raise the level of this game and they need to do it quickly. And that's not only on the players, that's teaching the players or working with the players to increase that level quicker, right? You want to realize their potential. Asher, Hydration, Surefire, they can reach those levels. I think, like, we have seen excellent play out of them. It's about learning how to reach that play more often. There's nothing preventing them getting in that way. It's about providing the catalyst in the training process to get them.
No playoffs for the Gladiators, but noticeable improvement for Gladiators from stage 1 to stage 2, which is what you want to see in a 5-stage season. You want to see your team getting better. At least I do, and I think a lot of this is just Fisher's raw, amazing talent on the Winston.
Yeah, and game sense coming through. He's already, I guess, brought some new attitude, I guess, to Gladiators in terms of how they approach it. If we talk about standings, Jacks, if they won that game, they won that game, they would have been in 4th place. Or sorry, I mean, they would have been in 4th place behind Fusion.
Yeah,
and Seoul would have been in 5th, but instead those points are flipped. Boston Uprising pretty close behind Gladiators there, earning that 6th.
Let's just take a quick moment to look at the overall standings here.
Sure.
New York, London, Philadelphia, Seoul, Gladiators, Boston, Houston, Valiant, Chalk, Florida Mayhem, Dallas Fuel, Shanghai Dragons.
That's for stage 2.
Stage 2. Some of this is not like you would have expected coming in. So basically what I want to say is you take a look at this now compared to what we thought was going to happen at the beginning of this stage, and the Dallas Fuel being down there 2nd from bottom, maybe we would have thought 3rd from bottom, right? We didn't really expect the Dallas Fuel to do anything, but Houston Outlaws, right? Los Angeles Valiant 7th and 8th after performing so well in stage 1. Boston 6th, that's almost identical to where they finished in the previous stage, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they had a slower start to the stage, to be honest, if I remember. They came out sort of quiet here. But yes, they sort of end up being overall pretty flat with where they performed in stage 2.
6 and 4. So for Boston, you look at this, and I've been talking. I guess I come my bias is showing because I focus on the Gladiators so much. But if I'm looking at Boston, and you almost have to think they have to make some changes there somewhere. 6 and 4 in both stages, and like right now, as it is going in stage 3, unless there's a massive meta change, and there's not, you don't expect anything different from Boston, do you?
Honestly, at this point, like, without going too far into predictions, we'll do that next week. But I don't see too much changes happening for them. The only thing you can work on right now is coaching and improvements. And the question maybe at this point is if your team can improve. It's not only on the players, it's also on the coaching staff. We'll see what teams between particularly stage 2 and stage 3 can make those. There are lots of opportunities for the lower level teams. I'm talking Dragons, Mayhem, Fuel, particularly maybe Shock as well, to move up in standings in the next stage, make some wins happen where formerly some of these teams have only had 1 or 2, and maybe not end up at the top of the standings for stage 3, but at least get themselves out of the bottom level and make themselves a little bit more competitive. I think that's the major changes we can expect moving forward to Stage 3. What else I can expect is these middle-ranked teams from Stage 2, so Gladiators, Boston, maybe even Houston. Definitely Philly is in the upper third right now, right?
Yeah.
These teams need to start taking games, or at least threatening games, off of Excelsior, Spitfire, and Dynasty more often.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to see coming into Stage 3. If we don't see it, then we know whose coaching is working out better.
All right, I think that does it for Overwatch League. For this episode, this is part one. Playoffs were today. Lepos and I, we watched it, didn't have enough time to really go into it like we wanted to, so we're saving that for tomorrow's episode. However, we do have other things to run down.
Yeah, and we will be doing a very quick rundown, Jax, starting with...
Oh boy.
Oh my. We're talking about Contenders, and
it's seven regions of Contenders.
They
man.
keep on increasing the number of regions, Jax. How many regions are we going to have by then?
Is done. We are done. No more Contenders after 7.
This year at least. Maybe they'll add some more. I'm waiting for the Antarctica.
Where's Africa?
The Echo Point. Africa, Middle East, Russian region.
The rest is Europe, but yeah.
Antarctica. It's all
America. We only had. Okay, we had week 2 games. Is that correct? March 8th? Yes, we had week 2 games. All right.
Yeah. So here we are with some of the week 2 results. I believe we mentioned some of the results from week 2, the Sunday results.
Yeah.
That had already happened. So we only have the results from the Tuesday that we hadn't covered. Fusion University taking a 3-2 victory over Optic Gaming. Simplicity 4 over Bye-Week, and Energy able to take a 3-2 over Envision. Some interesting results happening there.
Ozik's getting some payback on the team that cut him. They cut him.
Yeah,
they said, we don't want you, and then he went. I think he tried out with Blank a little bit, and then when Blank fell apart, he got with NRG, and now he's the one laughing at Envision, taking the win.
Yeah, forcing them into a 1-1 scoreline. In fact, the only undefeated team is Fusion University. Only a team without a win is Bye-Week in that Group B standings right now.
I do have to correct you, Leplos. In Group A,
I'm not talking
Gladiators
about
Legion, undefeated.
You're correct. I was trying to talk Group B. But
Shields up. I'm looking at Gladiators Legion. They got a guy named Gods on that team. If I remember correctly, right? Gods used to be a top-tier Widow back in the Western scene.
Maybe they're preparing him, but I don't know what he's playing these days. Maybe he is playing some of that Widowmaker.
Interesting. I'm just putting that out there. Gods can flex onto a number of different positions here. Perhaps the coaching staff might want to take a look at. Okay.
Jax, let's go ahead and talk about Europe as well, where we have more Contenders action. 2 out of the 7 regions? Okay, anyways, this week, Jax, I'm trying to think. We had the 18th. Did we cover the 18th games last week? I don't think so.
Let's just run it down quickly here. I don't remember myself.
Okay, so here we are. We'll do the 18th and 19th. CIS Hope 4-0 over Bazooka Puppies. EG, which is Eagle Gaming, managing to take 3-1 over Copenhagen Flames. Yep. We had Young and Beautiful take a 3-1 over Mosaic. That's all in Group B action. In Group A, we had Orglis and Hungary take a 3-1 over Singularity, 4-0 Gigante over Disband, and British Hurricanes 3-2 over Angry Titans. So
I gotta say, man, if I'm Gigante, I might be worried about Davin getting picked up soon.
Yeah, and that could seriously influence where you're sitting at.
I would definitely have a plan B there if I'm Gigante. But
currently, they're sitting top of Group A with a 1 map advantage over British Hurricane. Both teams 2-0. At the bottom, Angry Titans team Singularity in Group A 0-2. Group B only one undefeated team. That's Eagle Gaming there 2-0. A lot of teams 1-1. Mosaic Esports only winless team in Group B. There in the European Contenders season. Jax, we're talking about Contenders. Let's go ahead and move over to the Pacific scene, specifically, not the Pacific. We're going to be talking about Korea, which is close to the Pacific region.
What? Okay.
Yeah, it's different. I know. They separate all of them. I guess there's enough of a scene in Korea to sustain that region alone, which is good. We're seeing some familiar names come out. Unfortunately, some familiar names also losing. Group A, let's talk about the results so far. since we haven't managed to do so. There's actually been 6 games played in the first week, and this 6 games remain for the remaining 4 weeks as well. So they seem to have a condensed schedule.
They also play on the land compared to other contenders region.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool stuff that they're doing that. And some surprises in Group A, at least in terms of familiar names. Element, Mystic, Blossom, Metabellum, all 1-0. On the bottom, Jacks, Team Kongdu, Panthera, Meta Athena, X6 Gaming, former world ranking number 9, right there at the bottom with an 0-4 scoreline to start things off in Group A. Group B, we had 7, O2, Ardent, and Runaway all sitting at 1-0.
That's an
MVP
interesting
space,
group, man. Very interesting.
Laurel's
group
9,
over
and
here.
Foxes all at 0-1.
I'm finally getting. I was always wondering how good is Ardent. You know, I could never tell because Ardent was never in these international competitions, and now they're back in the big scene in Korea. And I got a close eye on this group here, Group B. I'm really, really curious to see how this turns out.
Yeah, I mean they have their first. Okay, so they beat Laurel's 9 with a 4-0 in the first week. We see next week though maybe against a more familiar name where they play MVP space on the 27th. So maybe something to keep your eyes out for
and Runaway versus 7.
Another good matchup in the Korean scene. Jax, let's go ahead and move though again. You have me jumping all over. This time we're in South America. It's like where in the world is Carmen San Diego or something? Here we're talking week 2 standings. Brazil Gaming House sitting at the top of Group A, 2-0, only top team there, as they managed to win over Keed. Isurus 4-0 over Dogma, Just W 3-2 over Black Dragons. Actually, maybe that one was a bit of a surprise, Jax.
Groups don't look balanced to me, but maybe as the season play out, I'll see something different. Group A just looks stronger. Black Dragons, story team. This is not really who made this group.
Yeah, Group B on the other side, we had Pain 4-0 over Battalion, NG over 4-0 over Caverna, and Encore 3-2 over Predators.
This team here, Black Dragon, Nitro, Snow, Muris, Colero. Come on, dude. They all play for. Okay, it's not balanced. Group A much tougher than Group B.
Yeah, it certainly looks like that's going to be the competitive group throughout. So I don't know how they drew those together. Let's move over to talk about Australia Contenders. Australia Contenders this week had.
You go from Europe to South America. I mean, you went from Europe to Korea to South America to Australia now, Lepelos. There's no geographical.
The games don't make any sense either. This week, Jax, we had a total of 8 games this week over 3 days. So, their scheduling is a little bit different down under, I suppose. Yeah. We had LGC, which is a Legacy Esports, I believe, take a 4-0 over Kanga, Blank 4-0 over Tainted Minds.
Just Blank Blue. There's 2 blanks now.
My apologies. Blank.
Yes.
I mean, they're not even. They don't even have separate symbols, do they?
No, they don't.
They don't. So it confuses me. But here, Blank Blue 4 over Tainted Minds, Masterminds GC 4-0 over Surge, Darksided 3-1 over Serenity. SDB is Sydney Drop Bears. I love that name, by the way. That's a great one. 4-0 over Alter Ego.
Alter Ego for Sydney Drop Bears, man. 3-0, 12-0 map line. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Alter Ego 4-0 though the next day over Surge, and Masterminds GC 3-0 over Knock P, which is Knock Predators.
I think part of the problem I have is before I would have time to watch. I could catch a game from all these regions, and now
it's
with
so
all
condensed.
These Overwatch leagues, I don't have time, man. Don't.
Yeah. We should mention in Group A, Darksided and Blank Blue both sitting at 2-0 as it stands right now for the Australia region. Let's go ahead though. Pacific region.
Okay.
We had.
Oh, look who's at top there. That's okay.
Yeah, bit of a surprise here in the Pacific region. We have Detonator Korea. I think this is different than the Detonator Gold.
Is that different than Gold? No.
I believe so. I believe it's still the Detonator brand.
Well,
but
okay, so when I click on Detonator and it takes me to their page, there's Detonator Gold, Detonator Black, Detonator Korea, and Detonators. Or no, Detonator 5. Okay.
Well, this one is Detonator.Korea, Jax, and that's the one we're going with 1-0 +4. Also sitting up there at the top of Group A, that's Talon Esports. Talon winning over Chaos Theory, and Detonator Career winning over M.79, which is the good old Mackie Esports guys there for the top of Group A, as well as Hong Kong Attitude winning their game over
God,
Bizarre.
that region was decimated, dude.
Yeah, on Group B action, it's sort of a similar story. Blank here. This is not Blank Blue. This is Blank this time, Jax. Winning over One Shine. Xavier Esports winning over Incount in a 3-2 scoreline, so that one was pretty close. And Mega Esports, also another close one, 3-2 over Logitech G A-Bang.
I hope Blank can be challenged. I look at this. Ardiant gone. Flash Wolves gone. I think Blank might run through this region.
There's not even an HQ here, I don't believe, anymore.
I know, they're gone.
They're gone, too.
They're all gone.
Everyone's gone. All right.
Okay.
We have one more region to discuss.
Oh, I'm tired.
I know. We're getting close, though, Jax. It's China regular season action in Contenders. We have a couple of games that actually happened. We're just going to go through standings here. Group A, Lucky Fan is Future Zenith 2-0, T1W Esports 2-0, League N Esports 1-1, Team CC 1-1, Vici Gaming Jacks 0-2. Are you kidding me?
Vici, they lost Dia and to the Dragons, and Vici, I might have to stop. I might have to withdraw my support from the team.
They may no longer be the up and down team. They just might be the down team.
Yeah.
Moss 7 Club also 0-2 in Group A. Group B, LGD Gaming, Scottish Gift, or Team Scottish Gift, both 2-0. Legend Young Beyond Jacks 1-1. Super Number 1 1-1 as well.
I
for
gotta point
the
out here, Lepos, that Super Number 1. We had a bit of a napping issue earlier today. Lao Yin B won via forfeit because Super Number 1 had a player who fell asleep. The team couldn't wake him up, and they had to forfeit their game.
Jax, I'm pretty sure you call that one a Z9. Right? Is that
Z9
proper?
Is completely different. Know your memes, man.
Well, no, I mean C9 is one thing, but this is a literal Z9. So
Z9 is also a thing. It's we're not going. We don't have time to go into that.
All right.
How do you fall asleep and not?
I mean, maybe he's not paid enough for an alarm clock or something. I'm not sure. Down at the bottom, we had Lucky Future at 0-2 and Hero Tactor and Panther at the bottom of Group B with 0-2. You also have linked me, Jax, yet again, Swiss Premier Division. We're outside of the Contenders now.
These people on the
we had that big matchup here between Silent Gaming and Lasan Esports this week.
Yeah, what happened there?
Well, Silent Gaming winning out 3-0 against Lasan Esports.
Wish I had map line. They don't stream. I don't have map lines. I don't know percentages. I don't know numbers.
Yeah, we can't even tell you how close it was.
The Swiss not have. They should have numbers here.
Maybe they're
like no numbers.
Listen, it's like they're banks. They don't like to share information with the outside world.
Is that how it is?
Yeah, I'm afraid that information is for paying customers only. Maybe I'm not entirely sure, Jax, how it works. But what we do know is that they ended up winning the game pretty strongly. They've only dropped one map the whole season. Silent Gaming. So.
It was in their second game against MY.
Yeah.
My Insanity. Why is that name familiar?
My Insanity has been seen in a few scenes. I think they won a minor tournament half a year ago when we talked about them. They had a player or two formerly on them that we recognized at that time. Yeah. I'm not sure if they've changed though. In terms of their current team lineup, there's not anyone that I recognize. Right now. And anyways, Jax, let's go ahead and move on beyond that league. They're, just for the record, though, they're done week 5, almost done week 6. So we'll come back at the end of next week, I think, and have pretty much all the results from the regular season of that.
Oh, are we done with regular season? Oh, okay, yes. Playoffs, that's when I get involved. All right.
But we also linked me here, Button Festival. It sounds like a Button Festival of gaming
people. He's making things up now.
Is this it's an Austrian gaming thing that you linked me here, done in Graz.
Doing this to draw out. I said shorter podcast, so now he's just gonna find random things to put in.
You act like I don't read what's put in front of me. You know what? I'm like
Festival of Gaming Culture.
You put things in front of me, I read them out. This is how this works. I'm like the Ron Burgundy of small podcast. But Jax, suffice to say, Plan B Esports winning this one soundly in
Oh, no,
all of their
we've seen
matchups.
Plan B before. We have seen Plan B Esports before. I think it was in one of the Go for European weeklies or monthlies.
Yeah, Plan B consisting of seven sins, Obstructo, Null, Hero Ray, Eclipse, and Drystick able to take all their games without dropping a map here in the playoffs. I'm not sure if there's any open bracket prior to the semifinals, but it was a double elimination playoff at least here between 4 teams. So they were able to win 3 games in a row, 2-0, 2-0, and 3-0 in order to earn the victory here.
Okay.
I don't see the prize pool. Oh, $250 Europe.
Okay.
European.
All right.
So yeah, that's the size of it. That ends the coverage though, Jax.
I like local tournaments, So
yeah, if you guys know
I wish
any,
I knew about it beforehand. I would have given them a shout out on my Twitter. Who am I kidding? I don't tweet very much.
and neither of us do, but we do pay attention to when people send us stuff.
If you tweet at me, I'll holler. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in fact, that seems like a natural place to bring it up, guys. We are at ODub Rundown on Twitter. I'm at Leplos. He's at Jax_Blake. Let us know what you think. Reminder again, double episode this week. If you're watching this live, thanks for coming by on Twitch, where I broadcast regularly live on Sundays, 9 p.m. PST. We'll have a special episode live either
/Lepolos.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Lepolos.
Lepolos as well. We'll also, I think the VOD will be up later tonight probably.
Yeah, later tonight. As well, we'll be doing this live, the second podcast, episode 80, where we talk about the playoffs for Stage 2 will be either tomorrow night, which is Monday, March 26th, or Tuesday, March 27th.
Probably the 26th, yeah.
Yeah, so pay attention. We'll have an extra episode for you guys this week. Hopefully it will be about the same length, which is looking like an hour and a half, Jax, I think.
This is too... For those who are... I told Lepolos 60 minutes maximum. No,
we had a lot to talk about with the stage and a lot to talk about with the teams going on. A lot of good stuff happening, or at least interesting things happening, Jax.
That means tomorrow we definitely have to come in under 60 minutes.
Yeah, that is true. We'll try our best. I mean, two really good games happened for those of you that don't know, spoilers. But yeah, something really good to look forward to. Hope you guys like our coverage of this week and of the playoffs. Let us know on Twitter, on comments, wherever you guys find us. Join us on Discord.
Stop by the Discord.
Yeah,
stop by the Discord. Let us know. I'm in the Discord right now.
Yeah, we're always chatting in Discord. We're always trying to pay attention to what's going on.
Where we actually discuss the drama. One of the few places we discuss drama. We also discuss drama in the pregame and the postgame of the podcast. So before we start doing the full recording, Lepolos and I talk, and afterwards, for a few minutes, we talk a little bit more.
And that's where we're going right now. All right, so we're going to end it right there.